The plane touched down earlier than scheduled, a rare stroke of luck that had me smiling to myself as I switched my phone off airplane mode. My boss, Daniel, who had also been my mentor at the firm, had sent me off on what was supposed to be a critical business trip to secure a new client in Chicago. But the deal was clinched sooner than anticipated, freeing me up to return home, to surprise Mealy, my wife of 5 years. The taxi ride felt agonizingly slow, but the thought of seeing Mealy's face light up kept my impatience at bay. I imagined her joy, the way she would throw her arms around me, her laughter ringing through our home. That image fueled me as I quietly unlocked the front door, the spare key cold in my hand. But the scene I walked into wasn't the one I'd pictured. The living room was dimly lit with candles, and there was a single glass of wine on the coffee table, beside which lay an array of scattered rose petals. My heart stuttered. Confusion spiraled into a sharp sting of suspicion. Mealy? My voice sounded foreign in the romantically staged room. No answer came, only the soft melody of a jazz song playing in the background, adding a surreal quality to the moment. I moved toward our bedroom, the floral scent of roses growing stronger. The door was ajar, but as I pushed it, resistance met my hands. Mealy's voice, frantic and hushed, filtered through. "Just a minute, Tom. Please, just wait." I didn't wait. I couldn't. With a force born of a burgeoning fury, I shouldered the door open. But the room was empty, except for the open window where the curtains billowed like silent specters. My eyes darted to the floor by the window, 2 glasses, another set of candles, more petals, and a men's watch I didn't recognize. "I can explain," Mealy pleaded from behind me, her voice trembling. I rushed to the window just in time to hear a crack and see a figure scaling down our fire escape. All I caught was a glimpse of pink underpants with red hearts as he disappeared into the night. A ridiculous detail that would have been laughable under any other circumstance. Turning to confront Mealy, her tear-stained face told me everything the chaotic bedroom refused to. He's my boss, Tom. Daniel. My mentor. My boss. Pain and betrayal knotted in my gut, tightening with every shuddering breath I took. "How could you?" My voice broke around the edges, raw and strained. Mealy reached out, her hands shaking. "I didn't mean for this to happen. It just..." I stepped back, her touch the last thing I wanted. "Save it, Mealy. We're done." The next few weeks were a blur of signed papers and packed boxes. The divorce was swift, my decision final. As I walked away from what had been my life, the image of pink underpants and heartbreak was etched into my memory, a bitter reminder of betrayal. But from that pain, a resolve solidified within me, a vow for retribution, not just against Mealy, but against Daniel too. My plans were just beginning to take shape, the first threads of a revenge that would be as cold and calculated as their deceit. The weeks following the divorce were a mosaic of sleepless nights and relentless planning. Each day, I threw myself into work with a ferocity that didn't go unnoticed by my colleagues. I avoided Daniel as much as possible, but the inevitable confrontation loomed over me like a thundercloud waiting to burst. It was on a particularly crisp Wednesday morning when fate decided to hasten our collision. I was early to the office, the first to arrive as had become my new routine, when the sound of the elevator dinging sent a ripple of tension up my spine. The door slid open and there he was, Daniel, carrying his smug assurance like a badge of honor. "Tom," he greeted, his voice disturbingly jovial. "Early bird, eh?" I clenched my jaw, forcing a nod. "Daniel." He approached, his steps echoing ominously across the empty floor. "Look, about what happened with Mealy, I hope we can put it behind us. Business as usual, right?" The casual dismissal of his betrayal ignited a flame of anger within me. "Business as usual?" I echoed, my voice low and dangerous. "You think we can just go back to the way things were?" Daniel's smile faltered, a flicker of unease crossing his features. "I understand you're upset." "Upset?" I cut him off, stepping closer. "You destroyed my marriage. You betrayed my trust. And you expect me just to accept it?" Daniel straightened up, attempting to regain his composure. Tom, what happened between Mealy and me? It was a mistake. An error in judgment. A mistake? I scoffed. Mistakes are when you misplace files, Daniel, not when you sleep with your employee's wife. The tension between us crackled, the air thick with unspoken threats. Daniel's gaze hardened, the facade of regret slipping away. What do you want, Tom? Justice, I stated firmly. And believe me, I will get it. With that, I turned on my heel and left him standing there, his uncertainty a small victory in the larger war I was waging. The rest of the day passed in a blur of forced interactions and covert glances, but my mind was elsewhere, piecing together every detail of the plan that was slowly taking shape. That evening, as the city bathed in the golden hues of sunset, I sat in my new, sparse apartment, maps and photographs spread out before me. My computer screen displayed a meticulously organized file labeled Operation Payback. I was digging into Daniel's professional life, searching for any crack in his polished veneer. Financial irregularities, dubious business connections, past indiscretions, anything that could be used to dismantle his career as meticulously as he had dismantled my life. A knock at the door jolted me from my focus. I approached cautiously, peering through the peephole. Standing in the hallway was a figure I hadn't expected to see, Rachel, a mutual friend and former colleague of Mealy and me. Opening the door, I greeted her warily. Rachel, what brings you here? She stepped inside, her eyes sweeping over the chaotic array of documents. I heard about what happened, Tom. I'm so sorry. But I think I have something that might help you. Curiosity piqued, I ushered her to the table. What is it? Rachel pulled out her phone, swiping through several screens before handing it to me. I was at a conference last week where Daniel spoke. I accidentally recorded a conversation. He was bragging about some shady deals, something that could seriously damage his reputation if it got out. My pulse quickened as I listened to the recording. Daniel's voice, unmistakably clear, spoke of backdoor agreements and kickbacks. A smile slowly spread across my face. Rachel, this could be exactly what I need. She nodded, a serious expression on her face. I thought you might want to use it. Just be careful, Tom. I will be, I assured her, the gears in my mind turning faster. And thank you, Rachel. This means a lot. After she left, I sat back, staring at the screen. The pieces were falling into place, each one edging me closer to the retribution I sought. Daniel had played his hand, unaware that I was about to trump it. The storm was gathering, and I was ready to strike. Armed with the recording Rachel had provided, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. It was the leverage I needed, a weapon forged in the fire of betrayal. My strategy was clear, expose Daniel, but with such subtlety that my fingerprints would never tarnish the fallout. The next morning, I arrived at the office earlier than usual, the recording securely tucked away in my briefcase. The building was mostly empty, the hushed whispers of the early risers floating through the air like the prelude to a storm. I made my way to the IT department, a USB drive containing the explosive audio clutched in my palm. Morning, Tom, greeted Jenna, one of the IT specialists known for her discretion and expertise. What brings you here so early? I need a favor, Jenna, I began, lowering my voice. It's sensitive, and I trust you to handle it with the utmost confidentiality. Jenna's eyes narrowed slightly, sensing the gravity of the request. What do you need? I handed her the USB. I found something concerning about Daniel. I think it's important that the right people hear it, anonymously. Can you ensure it reaches the audit committee? Her fingers closed around the drive, a nod firming her understanding. I'll take care of it, Tom. You'll hear nothing more about it from me. Gratitude washed over me as I left her office. The seed was planted, now it was time to watch it grow. Over the next few days, the atmosphere in the office shifted palpably. Whispers turned into murmurs of discontent and suspicion. Daniel, once the epitome of unflappable confidence, began to look over his shoulder, his composure fraying at the edges. It wasn't long before the audit committee called for an internal investigation. Daniel was summoned, and the doors to the boardroom closed behind him, sealing his fate within the opaque glass walls. I watched from a distance, feigning disinterest, as executives and legal advisors filtered in and out of the room. When Daniel finally emerged, his usual swagger was replaced by a guarded, uneasy gait. That afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. Tom, the voice was unmistakably Daniel's, tinged with a desperate edge. "We need to talk." "About?" I replied, my tone deliberately cool. "Meet me at the park, by the old fountain." "In an hour," he said before the line went dead. The park was quiet, the fading light casting long shadows across the path. Daniel was already there, pacing restlessly by the fountain. "You've set me up," he accused straight away, his eyes wild with panic. "I don't know what you're talking about, Daniel," I lied smoothly, keeping my voice steady. "The recording, Tom. It was you." His accusation sliced through the chilly air, a desperate attempt to claw back some control. "I'm just as surprised as you are," I responded, feigning ignorance. "Whoever did it probably saved the company from a bigger scandal." Daniel's face crumpled with the realization that I wouldn't be goaded into a confession. "What do you want, Tom? Why are you doing this?" "Justice," I reiterated, the single word a definitive echo of my relentless pursuit. "Is this about Mealy?" His voice broke, revealing the crack in his armor. "It's about everything," I said, turning to leave. "Goodbye, Daniel." As I walked away, I didn't look back. The pieces of my plan were aligning, each move calculated with precision. The board's decision was inevitable, and with each step, I moved closer to closing this chapter of betrayal. Back home, I prepared for the final act. The fall of Daniel would be public and humiliating, a spectacle worthy of the deceit he had woven. I was almost at the end, the promise of vengeance fueling my resolve. The storm I had summoned was about to break, and I was ready to watch Daniel reap the whirlwind. The day of reckoning arrived with an overcast sky, as if the heavens themselves bore witness to the final act of my meticulously laid plans. The office buzzed with the tension of impending upheaval as Daniel's fate hung in the balance. I arrived, my demeanor composed, the calm before the proverbial storm. As I walked through the corridors, murmurs of the scandal involving Daniel filled the air. His indiscretions, magnified by the recording, had spread like wildfire, igniting outrage and disbelief among the staff and upper management. The board had convened for an emergency session, and Daniel's termination was imminent. Mid-morning, I received the call to join the meeting, not as a spectator, but as a key witness. The boardroom was stifling, the weight of corporate justice palpable in the air. Daniel sat alone on one side of the table, a pariah in the empire he once helped rule. "Tom," the chairman nodded to me as I took my seat. "Thank you for joining us." I nodded, my gaze briefly meeting Daniel's. His eyes were a mixture of fury and fear, a man on the precipice of losing everything. "Let's proceed," the chairman declared. The room fell silent as the charges were read aloud, each word a nail in the coffin of Daniel's career. When it was my turn to speak, I stood, my voice clear and steady. "Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence speaks for itself. Daniel's actions have not only breached company ethics, but have personally betrayed the trust of his colleagues, myself included." Daniel's fists clenched, his jaw working silently. "This is a setup," he finally burst out, standing abruptly. "Tom is behind this. He's doing this to get back at me for personal reasons." The room erupted into whispers, but I remained calm, my plan unfolding perfectly. "I understand this is difficult for you, Daniel, but turning this into a personal vendetta is beneath you," I countered smoothly. The board deliberated for what seemed like hours, but were only minutes. The verdict was as expected: Daniel was to be terminated immediately and escorted from the building. As security approached to lead him away, Daniel turned to me, his expression one of betrayed fury. "You won't get away with this, Tom. I'll make sure of it." "I already have," I whispered back, just loud enough for him to hear. Later that evening, as I sat in my apartment, the full weight of my actions began to settle around me. But there was one last piece of the puzzle left, a final twist to my tale of vengeance. I dialed Mealy's number, the familiar digits a ghostly echo of a life past. She answered on the third ring, her voice cautious. "Tom? Is everything okay?" "It's done," I said simply. "Daniel's gone. From the company, and from our lives." There was a pause, a breath of silence. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because there's something you should know," I continued, the final cards in my hand ready to be revealed. It wasn't just about revenge. This was also about protecting the company. Daniel was involved in more than just infidelity. There were illegal dealings, Mealy. You were just a pawn in his game. The silence that followed was broken only by her stunned gasp. I had no idea, Tom." "I know. And I wanted you to hear it from me before anyone else. We're done, Mealy. Forever. But I thought you deserved the truth." The line went dead, and I placed the phone down slowly. My heart felt lighter, yet the shadows of what I had done lingered, a bitter aftertaste of the necessary poison of revenge. As I looked out over the city, the lights blurred into the darkness, a fitting metaphor for the blurred lines between justice and vengeance. Mealy and Daniel were out of my life, the ties that bound us severed by the very betrayal that had once united us. My revenge was complete, insidious and ruthless, a silent storm that had swept through our lives, leaving a quiet solitude in its wake.